All right, what is good, y'all? Welcome back to another YouTube video. As you guys know, today is October 1st, which means we are officially in quarter four for the year 2025. All right, so I want to go over how I'm going to spend the last 3 months of this year, what I expect in upcoming in the next year, and then how you guys should approach this year if you're in this next 3 months if you're in a certain spot in your day trading journey. Okay, so first, let's start off with me, right? Let me just take you back just to the beginning of the year, right? So I started my day trading journey back in late January. Let's just call it the beginning of February, right? I was learning the basics, as you guys probably are, as you guys were doing as well. And from there, I finally jumped into a funded around like April-ish. I passed a couple funded account or evals, got to the XFA stage, and then just blew them. Why? Well, because my psychology wasn't dialed, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I guess you can say I just got lucky at the end of the day, right? I happened to just pass these evals for whatever the case may be. I finally got to the XFA stage. I started trading with real money, and I got very, very emotional. And then I didn't pass another eval for probably the next like month and a half to 2 months, which is a very long time, especially if you're trading every single day, right? And it can get very discouraging, and that's completely fine. But if you guys just stick through it, the end result will be very, very solid. Okay, so I spent my the first 2 quarters, so the first half of this year, essentially learning day trading, learning from my mistakes. Okay, I was making mistakes over and over and over again. I wouldn't say I was necessarily learning from them. However, I was taking something away from it and realizing, all right, this isn't what I need to do to be a profitable trader. I finally need to switch something up. So by the time quarter 3 came, I got my first payout, which was a $2,500 payout. Okay, the very next payout, which was about 2.5 weeks later, was $10,000. Okay, and the next payout after that was a $15,000 payout, and I ended up making about $30,000. It was like 29 and some change. I made $30,000 in the month of August from making absolutely nothing all the way up until, let's call it late June, early July. Let's just call it early July, right? So let's say July, I got my first payout, which it was a $2,500 payout. And then August came around and I ended up making $30,000. But what changed within that period? It was literally just me just being patient, okay, accepting either result, whether it was a win or loss, and me just looking for my setup on a day-to-day basis, me not worrying about how much money I made or how much money I lost, right? Those small wins add up and those big losses add up as well, okay? So it goes both ways. It doesn't just go in the winning way. It also goes in the losing way as well. So back to what I was saying is, how do I personally plan on spending these next 3 months, all right? I plan on spending quarter 4 just essentially building more and more knowledge on market structure, right? Because I'm still learning every single day. I still make mistakes here and there. Obviously not as many like psychological mistakes. It's more of just like technical analysis now. Most of my technical analysis is dialed in. However, there's still some minor tweaks that I can fix, right? Regardless of what it is. So I plan on spending these next 3 months really dialing in my technical analysis, right? Stacking my papers, sticking to my trading plan. So by the time 2026 comes, I can expand my funded accounts, right? Because I have 5 right now on Tradeify and 5 on Top Step, but I do want to expand that to 5 more on Take Profit. Okay, and then there was 3 on Alpha, and I believe there's a couple other platforms that are good. I know Apex you can have the max allo of 20 accounts, but I've heard mixed reviews about Apex. I heard you guys only get paid if you're like partnered with them, so on and so forth. So I got to do more research about that. But that's how I plan on spending my next 3 months. It's just literally just staying patient, not rushing the process. I don't need anything right here and now. I'm playing the long-term game, okay? And you guys should be doing that as well if you are in the same boat as I am, right? However, if you are in the boat I was in the early half of this year, the unprofitable stage, right? Still making those same mistakes, still in the fucked up psychology stage, you guys should spend these next 3 months, and just hear me out. Okay? You guys should spend these next 3 months just trying to dial in your psychology, okay? Because realistically, what are you rushing it for? Like, ask yourself, realistically, what are you rushing for? I'm sure you guys, most of y'all live probably at home with your parents and pay minimal bills or next to none. Okay, let's just keep it a buck because most of you guys are pretty young that are watching this and starting your day trading journey. So ask yourself, realistically, what are you rushing it for? I understand you guys want to get rich, but you cannot rush the process, okay? So dial in your psychology for the next 3 months. So by the time 2026 comes, you will be a profitable trader heading into that next year. And then who knows what 2026 holds. Like I said, I didn't make a fucking single penny of profit for the first 5 months. The 6th month, I made $2,500. And then the 7th month, I made $30,000, okay? So it can fucking stack up really quick. But what has to change? Your psychology has to change. Now, if if you got your psychology dialed in, again, stay patient and let's work on that market structure, right? Journal every single trade you take, and in your emotions tab or in your what could you do better tab, be very, very honest with yourself, okay? Watch my trade recaps over and over again if you need to. I'm not saying you necessarily have to watch me, but if I am your mentor, I would suggest watching my recaps and try to understand what I'm saying when I go through the actual market analysis every single day, okay? Because not only do I go over my trades, I go over the entire market and what setups presented itself, which ones didn't, okay? So you guys can learn from what I'm saying. So like I said, spend these next 3 months just trying to dial in whatever you need tweaked in your trading plan, right? Whether it's your psychology or whether it's your actual technical analysis or whether it's both, okay? There's no point to rush it. Why? Because the new year is right around the corner. So what do you want for that new year? Well, you probably have new goals and new ambitions. So dial in for the next 3 months, lock the fuck in for quarter 4. So by the time quarter 1 comes for the new year, you can be a completely new person overall, right? You can start getting those payouts. You can start being a profitable trader. You can start being an emotionalist trader, right? So that's how I plan on spending the next 3 months. That's how you guys should plan on spending the next 3 months, especially if you're unprofitable. And what I expect coming into 2026 is obviously it can go either way. We can just go on a crazy lose streak or we can go on a crazy win streak. But one thing I will be sure of is that my psychology will be dialed in, so there will be no more dumbass losses or just over trading days, which result in just fucked up amounts of losses, right? Because I headed into September 1st, I lost $2,300 per account. Mind you, I have 10 accounts, so that was $23,000 on the first day of September. And then I basically spent the rest of September break even because I made that money back, and then it was just win, loss, right? So September was a mediocre month. October is going to be super, super simple, right? I don't plan on taking crazy big payouts. Why? Because I just want to build my buffer and dial in on my psychology even more and fix the minor tweaks of my technical analysis, right? So again, heading on over to 2026, once that shit is fixed for these next 3 months, because I'm going to practice every day, just like you guys should, 2026, I can stack my funders more and more and more and buy those more funders like I talked about, right? And you guys can be in the exact same boat if you do the exact same thing for the next 3 months. So that's how you guys should spend quarter 4 of 2025, especially if you're unprofitable. Dial the fuck in, fix your tweaks, so by the time 2026 comes, you guys can have whatever the fuck you want and you guys can actually be financially free, okay? Lock the fuck in. You guys got this. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or you guys need to come to me for anything, feel free to do so. You guys can DM me on Discord. You guys can DM me on Instagram. You guys can DM me on TikTok. Or you guys can just leave a comment on the YouTube video, okay? I'm here to help you guys out. I don't do this for the money. I do this literally for the love of the game, like I always fucking say. All right? So let me know down below if I can help you guys in any sort of way. I love y'all, boys. Spend these next 3 months. Lock the fuck in. So by the time 2026 comes, you guys can do whatever the fuck you want, when you want, how you want it. All right? I'm out.